Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And it's Father's Day, folks, or at least it's going to be Father's Day for another 45 minutes on the East Coast, so we got it in there, darn it. So to celebrate, and because the show is trending just so much and, everyone loves it, we thought we'd take a moment to pay tribute to a man and a character that is beloved by many, beloved by all, just arguably one of the great father figures, not just in animation, Dragon, but I would say in all of fiction. We're talking about the life of Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That we are. One of the best elements of Avatar: The Last Airbender, of course, for me, is the Zuko story. And of course, you can't have the Zuko story without the Zuko and Iroh story. Iroh is very pivotal within that story. There's so much wonderful layers and depth to that relationship and that whole half of our narrative. I mean, not only a father figure, but a father with an exceptional arc and exceptional role within the Avatar series. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to break down said arc and kind of focus in on kind of those fatherly elements, kind of the Zuko Iroh of it all, as well as the Iroh Lieutenant of it all. The whole gambit.
All right, so we're going to try not to make this just like a love fest of Iroh, because everyone knows that the character is so awesome. So we're going to really try and get in depth with his character development and everything like that, and his arc, and kind of some of the more three-dimensional sides to his personality. But before we do that, Dragon, I just felt it was appropriate, just because this is really the first time we're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender in any sort of extended form. I feel like as our thesis statement, instead of doing a usual thesis statement on, whatever we're talking about, I think we should simply do, kind of like one of those extra credit college essays. The reason why I love Iroh is this. So, Dragon, why do you love Uncle Iroh?
Oh, God. The reason I love Uncle Iroh is I always loved how he played off of Zuko, and I love how pleasant he was, and basically how that played off of Zuko specifically. I love how he was such a kind character. He's very much kind of the Alfred of Avatar: Last Airbender, kind of a universally kind of beloved character that he was very happy, very indulgent in kind of these little hobbies and everything. Yet he always kind of like when he spoke up with a point. It's this really really lovely character.
Yeah, I love the character because I feel like he had so many dimensions to him and so many kind of like fundamental shifts in how we viewed him from the first time we see him to the last time we see him. Because basically, like throughout pretty much all of book one, for the most part, we don't really see him as much more than the good bad guy. You know what I mean? Where it's like he is technically a bad guy, but he's a nice bad guy. He's a goofy bad guy. We like this bad guy. But then, of course, through book 2 and 3, oh my God, saying that he's not a bad guy doesn't even begin to do it justice. I mean, he is definitely the most, I would say he's even more noble than Aang, arguably, Dragon, because Aang, of course, has the Batu of the Water Tribe travesty of it all under his belt, and Iroh's never hurt anyone. Which, by the way, I still think that Sokka and Katara got over that Batu thing too quickly. I don't know. I would be pissed if I were in their shoes.
It's Batu of the Water Tribe, but.
What am I saying? Batu?
Yeah, you keep saying Batu. Like it's like what is Batu? It's
I think Batu is a Star Wars planet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's what we call the.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Anyway,
I think it's Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure it's Galaxy's Edge. So it's like circular. Wait a minute. Okay, anyway, Batu of the Water Tribe aside here. The point being, yes, Iroh is. That's the thing. Iroh adds the complexities of war element, where again, basically, as we go deeper in the Avatar series, we see the Fire Nation. While we've sold them as the bad guys, kind of at the outset, Iroh was always kind of the little flame that kind of got us to the end point. We're like, yeah, the Fire Nation aren't necessarily bad people. They've been led by bad people. It doesn't make them bad people. And Iroh kind of fits into that, where he's kind of part of a military family. It doesn't mean he's a monster.
Post World War II Germany.
Well, if you want to take it there, sure.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, it's the same sort of philosophy of like being ashamed of your past and wanting to move forward and make it right. And yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dragon, let's get right into the life and times of Uncle Iroh. Let's crack open this this volume of I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I have no idea where you're going with today.
Sorry, let's start with the Dragon of the West.
Yes. Okay, so let's dive into Iroh's past. Which, of course, big thing about Iroh, his nickname is.
I was gonna do so like this volume of like heroism but I don't know.
Yeah. You fired from the hip on that one. Fire. Get it? Okay. Anyway, so anyway,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Anyway. So, let's crack into Iroh's past, as it were, as the Dragon of the West. So, of course, Iroh, Iroh's very interesting past and formative years. For me, the cornerstones of doing the deep dive on Iroh for our purposes today, I think the cornerstones of Iroh as a character, even dating far back to his origins here, are two things. It's patience and a respect for power. I think those are the two cornerstones of Uncle Iroh as a character.
Yeah, I would agree to that, sure.
So think about it. So as we learned way back, in Book 3, we learned from the Sun Warriors, the origins of firebending were not necessarily aggression as they tended to be during that 100-Year War. Because firebending traditionally comes from aggression, thanks to that 100-Year War, and kind of the corrupting nature of fire. Like, ooh, I hold fire in my hand, I can throw it at people. That whole kind of element of fire.
But then when you think about firebending, what the whole nature of it, like the actual execution of it, is mostly just impatience. It's almost meditative in practice.
Certainly, and basically, Iroh kind of learns from the Sun Warriors, much like Aang and Zuko did ultimately, that fire really, it's less destruction and chaos and just like unwavering, unrefined power. It's life, not power and destruction. That's what it is. It's life. It's kind of like it's focused life, and patience is kind of turning something into fire, like you're saying. It's the old leaf exercise from Zhong Zhong. He's got to focus on it. You'll have fire, but again, as we learn later, it works like a heartbeat. It's life you're holding in your hands.
Right.
And again, I think the reason Iroh again is so proficient as firebending is because with this understanding, Iroh has the respect for that power, but also the power of the dragons and the masters of firebending, the original masters of firebending, Ran and Shaw, the original dragons, the red and blue dragons. Yeah. So
now, unlike Game of Thrones, Dragon, this is a show that did not outwear the welcome of the dragons. This is a show where, because I know with Game of Thrones, by the end of it was like, yeah, right, all right, another episode, another dragon, all right. But this show, it's like we see dragons like maybe twice in the whole run of the show.
If you want to be technical, 4 times, but basically we see Avatar Roku has a pet dragon like Aang has Appa.
Uh-huh.
So basically they rode dragons way back when the Fire Nation, and then we saw like the last surviving dragons with Ran and Shaw, in the
so I just love how the show just makes such a the show treats dragons the same way that Iroh does, with respect and with like just a sense of majesty.
Absolutely. So speaking of which, Iroh did something really special. So of course, Iroh, as we mentioned, called Dragon of the West. Now he's called that because he did something he protected them with a lie. He protected them with a lie that he wiped out the last of the dragons. Because I want to say around this time it was it became like big game hunting for firebenders. Like, hey, let's kill the dragons. Let's see who the real fire breathers are. Am I right, buddy? Am I right? And anyways, that sort of thing. Where it's kind of like a hunting lodge sort of thing. And basically, Iroh kind of respected the majesty of these creatures, and he wanted to put an end to it. So I wiped out the last of the dragons, so kind of made sure none of them ever went there. And of course, to be remarkably, oh god, this guy hunted down like all the dragons, and he stopped. And we got to give this guy an awesome nickname, Dragon of the West, and he can breathe fire, even better. So again,
oh my god, the fact that Iroh can breathe fire is just like there's a lot of great sort of like heartfelt things about Iroh that we're going to get into, of course. but him breathing fire is a straight up badass moment.
It is. It is. It was one of the coolest moments of book 2. Let's be honest. It's like again, it was one of the coolest, action movie sort of things. They were like, it was like, say, did I ever tell you why they called me the Dragon of the West? Oh, Uncle, I don't have time for your little stories. It's actually more of a demonstration. He drops his tear, he drinks his tea, like, he breathes the fire, gets out of dodge. That is so freaking awesome. But again, seriously, so Iroh, this powerful. He's a powerful bender because of his understanding of all this sort of stuff. Again, like the understanding of the peaceful nature of kind of the lifeblood of fire, and again, also the connection with the spirits, which essentially correlate to the dragons, which also kind of bleed a little bit into. I'm jumping like a smidge ahead here, but just because it all does relate to the spirits. I believe because he spared the dragons, that's what kind of formed his connection to the spirits, because he did something really nice for them. And basically, later in life, he would journey into the spirit world. Apparently, it was rumored in the series, and essentially confirmed later in Korra, that he journeyed into the spirit world to find his dead son, which he had no luck with. But again, he grew an even greater respect for the power of the spirits, and that's why in Avatar, even going back all the way to season 1, if you notice, he can see the spirits as they're going by. And Aang's going by on Roku's dragon. Only Iroh can see that, because he's been there. He's been there, buddy. Only one other than the Avatar to go to spirit world. Well, at least to Korra.
All right. Okay, so that leads us to Ba Sing Se, the first time that he goes to Ba Sing Se and tries to conquer it, alongside his son, Lu Ten. And of course, Dragon, this is going to be the big tragic backbone of Iroh going forward, losing his son at the Battle of Ba Sing Se, the Siege of Ba Sing Se. Just huge, absolutely monumental, like the death of Uncle Ben for Spider-Man. Like this is the moment that turns Iroh into the man he is by the time we get to The Last Airbender.
Absolutely. Something I want to note here going forward, because this is going to be important. Again, half the reason we're doing this for Father's Day is so again, I love how, really looking back on it, Iroh's story parallels Zuko so brilliantly in the series. If you really look at the whole course of the series, because essentially Zuko is on the same exact path that Iroh's life has kind of taken him to, but only at a much younger age. Where we kind of learn through the history of the show, it's in the Sozin bloodline. You're going from father to son as the ages go on. You have kind of this thing where we go Sozin to Azulan to essentially bring us to kind of a sibling pair that is very much like Zuko and Azula, where Azula is Ozai and Zuko, of course, is Iroh in the relationship. Because he has a bloodthirsty relative who again is trying to emulate and please the father, and you can get a sense it kind of was passed down, just kind of that relationship of the siblings of the Sozin line. And Iroh, as a military man, as a general, you get a sense he's just trying to do right by his family and kind of honor the homeland. Yeah. Again, the same reason Zuko's kind of in it, and he wants in that war meeting, very much like Iroh. Like Iroh, not a bloodthirsty guy by any stretch. Even in his younger days, he's not a bloodthirsty guy. He's just like, I'm going to do right because my family's been doing this for 100 years. I'm going to make them proud. I'm going to get the thumbs up from Poppy.
They're going to be proud of their boy.
One could say. And I've always loved the payoff of this. There's like a 3-part, in the grand course of the narrative, there's like a 3-part thing about Ba Sing Se. Of course, we have the big Ba Sing Se, the failed siege of Ba Sing Se, to the kind of book 2 Ba Sing Se, and then of course the return once we get all the way to the end of things. But I love that it all started with a misinterpreted dream of what Iroh thought his destiny was going to be. He loved the beauty. My interpretation is that he loved the beauty of Ba Sing Se, much like he does when he actually goes there, which led to him thinking, I'm being a member of the Fire Nation, I'm gonna lead a conquest of it. The only way I can appreciate this beauty is if we essentially conquer this beauty, which led to the sobering lesson, which is kind of like the physical scarring that Zuko gets, losing Lu Ten.
Yeah, that it's just what I love about this character beat, Dragon, is that it's such a dark cloud to hang over such a lighthearted character. There's always going to be an element of tragedy with Iroh, no matter how many tea jokes we make,
That's the brilliant thing that's what I love most about the character, Tiki, is that, again, he's always has that little, he's such a lighthearted, pleasant guy, but again, when you get to brass tacks, Uncle Iroh, we've gone to the grave of his son in this show, man. Technically twice. We've gone to the actual grave, and we've gone to the basically with the image before us here, kind of the tribute grave.
Yeah, so one can say this, like, for many facets of the Last Airbender, but I give it so much respect for treating a character like this with such nuance in a fucking Nickelodeon show of all things.
Yeah, so you know what's so great about Lieutenant? We built it up because we've had a few little glimpses of Lieutenant. Again, like before we really kind of put two and two together, like, oh yeah, Lieutenant is dead, before we really kind of like acknowledge it. Because we keep talking about, oh yes, General Iroh's famous failure at Ba Sing Se. We've name dropped it a lot in the first season. And we kind of build up the mythic aftermath of Iroh. Kind of he broke the idea is that Iroh broke through the outer wall. There's two walls in Ba Sing Se. That's why they're so secure back then. You have the first wall, which Iroh broke through, and he spent like 600 days there. And in that battle that ensued, his son dies. And every time we see Lieutenant, usually it's like him playing with his son as a kid. And that's the horrific thing. Your heart goes out to Iroh for. He still thinks of his son as the little kid he played around with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of course, the only time we've seen adult Lieutenant is that posthumous kind of sketch for his birthday during a little incense tribute there. And again, like Iroh is a character who masks his pain so well with the life that he's essentially. I like to read it as this, Tiki, and I could be crazy. I like to read it as the reason Iroh is so jovial and tea happy and everything is kind of living life to the fullest. The carpe diem of Uncle Iroh, if you will, is he's living a life for two. He's trying to live the life that his son no longer has.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea for sure.
And again, Iroh, he definitely regrets kind of the continued cycle of the military conqueror in this endless war that he kind of took part of with the siege of Ba Sing Se, which he very much blames for getting his son killed. But again, he put it on himself before he's fully putting it on the Fire Nation. So the idea is that Iroh, he retired after that happened. So he's always been the retired general who gets a lot of respect. It's like a former president sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, that guy. We still call him the president even though he's not in the job. That sort of thing. He still earned the title. Therefore, it's like we call him that. He's getting like carte blanche by Zhao for a while. But again, it's like it was he viewed it as his misguided ambition and his fault, and he saw pride before the sobering horror. So he's always had one step out of the Fire Nation, but he's just been sticking with the Fire Nation for the accoutrement and for the remaining family that is still loyal to the Fire Nation. That's really why he stayed behind. He could have become Fire Lord if he really fought for it, but he lost. The big thing with the loss of Lieutenant is he lost any lust for power he may have had. And again, it would have been like a negative.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, completely. It's kind of like it drained out of him. And he wanted to be there he kind of saw Zuko as his second chance to end the cycle. Like, it's too late for me. I'm damaged goods. I lost my son. But Zuko, I see a lot of myself in this kid. He's got the sibling just like I had. I mean, maybe I can help him. I can't tell him not to do something. I don't want to lose my son again through this kid. So that was always the really powerful thing about Iroh. He did a soul-searching journey, did a little spirit world. Around this time, he becomes a member of the White Lotus, which we're going to talk about later, and he gains a love for tea. It's all about tea and Zuko at the end of the day here, folks.
All right, and that transitions us nicely to the first Zuko bit that we have.
I think the biggest sell of Avatar: Last Airbender, again, like when you get into this show, 2 episodes back to back sell you on the show. If you weren't in the opening's a fun show, then it gets into a great show territory way early in season 1. It's the Storm and the Blue Spirit. Those 2 episodes very key. They reverse the order because I think it's a Blue Spirit then the Storm because he's sick in the anyway. The point being, we learn in the Storm. We learn what happened to Zuko, and this is one of my all-time favorite Uncle Iroh moments. I looked away.
Yeah. And like you said, Iroh really in this moment is just kind of like living for his loved ones, and this is really the moment that kind of it's the Game of Thrones style moment, if you will, that really just tears his family apart in a big way. Obviously, I mean, this is like the definitive, this is the Lu Ten moment for Zuko. This is the moment that's going to literally and figuratively scar him for the rest of his life.
It's like, how can it get any worse for Iroh? Okay, well, he didn't lose his proverbial son, but he had to see essentially his proverbial son, his son figure, lose a part of himself that he's going to have to live with, which basically makes him even more like
hands of his brother.
Yes, which is, oh god, it's basically here's the thing, we doubled the tragedy in that scene because Zuko is going on the Iroh journey the hard way at a young age, where again, like Iroh was the one who led him in the war meeting. Imagine the guilt that Iroh feels, where he's just trying to do something nice for his nephew who wanted to be in the meeting. He says, "Oh, it's boring in there, Zuko. You don't want to, Prince Zuko. You don't want to go in there." But come on, I want to get. Okay, fine. So again, the kid that he mentored, that he put trust into, he just he kind of worsened his life unintentionally. An act of support just went so south, and Iris feels so bad. And again, that whole moment of I looked away. Always, that was like the moment I knew I loved Iroh even more. So that's when like a little hint of the drama, like that he's the only character in that room. Because if you look in that scene, Azula and Zhao are looking with glee on their faces. The Fire Nation, especially the military of the Fire Nation, these are bloodthirsty mothers. I'll tell you that much.
Azula, especially, is just a piece of work, man.
And again, back to the cornerstones. Again, Iroh, kind of a gentle soul. He's not a guy who's all about. He respects power. He's not about like you don't have. He's like the show. He's like the you don't have to show to tell this guy's a powerful guy. Like it's like we gotta burn people to show that we mean business. Like this guy he said a general's plan was stupid. Let's burn his face, and he's my son. Happy Father's Day to me. That's that's what I'm saying. Iroh is the complete polar opposite. He and his brother are very much counter opposites. And also one little note I want to make before we move on. It goes by like this. I don't even know if you picked up on this, Tiki. I don't blame you. I didn't pick up on it my first time either. Is that when we go to Ember Island in the third season, there's this really brief, like blink and you miss an image of we go to the beach and we see like a figure that initially you might think is Ozai, like a rare happy moment with Ozai, but really what it is, it's Iroh lifting up baby Zuko while his son is making sandcastles and shadows. This little image that goes by that Zuko's thinking about on the beach, where he's thinking about the guilt he has over what he did to Iroh.
In the beach episode?
Yeah, in the beach. I'm pretty sure it's in the beach episode. Yeah, when he's flashing. It's in the three of them are in silhouette. I'll show you the picture later if you show you the jogging memory maybe. But it's
no, I think I remember it. I think I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I got it wrong the first time I watched, but when I rewatched it way back when, I was like, oh my god, that's so haunting and beautiful. And again, definitely drives in the whole like he has a bond with this kid, man.
For sure.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. So, of course, we then get into the search for the Avatar, which is obviously the big crux of Zuko's Book 1 storyline.
Oh, no!
And so, Dragon, essentially, this is my interpretation of Iroh's role within Book 1 is that he's essentially the supportive father who's letting the teenage son lash out, how he needs to lash out. You know what I mean?
Certainly, because he sees a troubled youth, and basically Iroh is being a father who knows that he can't control or tell the kid what to do. Because one, he knows, and again, this is important. This is why we have Uncle in this video here, folks. Again, Iroh, he is not the kid's father, and he knows this, and he knows that if he tries to father the kid, he's gonna separate the tie, which he does not want. So that's why he's kind of the faithful compatriot. That's why Iroh is like he's letting him lash out, letting him do all this. But again, like and plus all the fatherly trauma. Like one, he's not his father, and two, all the father-related trauma that Zuko's been subjected to is not going to help his case either.
No.
So again, basically, Iroh's job.
We just got done with Spielberg month, Dragon, but Zuko's daddy issues have nothing on or Spielberg's daddy issues have nothing on Zuko's daddy issues.
Yep. And that's the thing. So, Iroh's job, as he sees it, basically the reason he's there and the reason he can always be in the periphery trying to guide Zuko from his worst demons is he's the wise and fun. He's the fun uncle. It's essentially his role in season 1 until we get to the big brass tacks. It's like, hey, he's the fun uncle. It's that guy. It's the tea guy. It's the tea man.
Howard Hamlin.
Yep. It's Howard. This is what Howard Hamlin wanted his father to be, but things didn't go well. Anyway, would have let him hang his own shingle if it was Iroh as his papa.
Okay, Dragon. You know what I'm realizing?
What?
This show came out roughly in the same time period that Better Call Saul was set in.
Yeah.
So, do you think that Howard Hamlin was a huge Iroh fan?
I mean, look, I don't know if Howard Hamlin has children. If he did, they probably would have watched.
You know what? I think Howard Hamlin is a man of taste, Dragon, and I think Howard Hamlin would hear the hype around the show and check it out regardless.
I'd like to think so. So again, importantly, the big circle point to make here is again, so Iroh again, he's subtly trying to advise him to dampen. He basically all throughout all this, he's been trying to dampen like the tunnel vision that Zuko has. But I got to hunt for the Avatar, hunt for my honor. But he's just trying to tell him kind of like what he's like the life he's trying to live for you, Lieutenant. It's like,
well, I have to hunt for some lunch.
God, that whole. Treachery, it's more fun. Okay, no, seriously though, it's like basically what Iroh's doing here on the sly so smartly here. Again, not only is just mentoring him, teaching him a little bit of firebending is like the excuse for why he's there. He's trying to say, Prince Zuko, why don't you go for the massage, buddy? Why don't you have fun, take in the sights? You know, he's just trying to get him to enjoy life and like because Iroh knows it's a long shot. Even if he comes back, even if by some miracle he he brings in the Avatar to his father. That relationship's damaged beyond repair, and Iroh sees that, but he doesn't know how to let the kid down gently about that. That's the whole point of why he's trying to get him to like, look, you're banished. You got to reconcile this. You're on a fool's errand. Even if you do it, it's not going to solve your problems. So, but again, as we saw in the storm, in that beautiful scene, where Iroh's again, I love how friendly Iroh is with the crew. He's always been really nice to the helms when he does like game nights with them, like karaoke nights and everything with people. Especially the people that try to kill him, because remember those guys are trying to bring him in for the bounty, like the guy on the Rhino with like the crew of five guys.
I'd like to think that all of Iroh's closest circle of friends are all people that have at one point tried to kill him.
You're pretty, with the exception of the one close, pretty much. So importantly, during that scene, they're in the storm. You know, he says the Avatar gives Zuko hope. And again, like the term, I think Iroh knows from the get-go that season 3 is all going to build to that eclipse scene. Iroh knows the real determination is going to be what is left for Zuko back at home after he gets home. Just period. If he ever comes back, what is left for him? That's what he's trying to prepare the kid for while he's in pursuit of the Avatar. He's just trying to get that realization through him while like we're on the fool's errand.
Sure.
Of course, a lot of runners that buy. Just the fun, lighthearted Iroh stuff. You want to mention a little bit of that? It's like some of the funny stuff.
Well, I mean, it all pretty much goes in the similar vein of like, I need to hunt down the Avatar. Well, I need to hunt down a good basket of chicken dumplings.
One of the funniest things.
It's all pretty much like the same vein of that.
I think the funniest thing, and of course, now knowing what we know, it was kind of a big pivotal thing, but I think one of the funniest things of all the Iroh shenanigans was the Pie Show title, where it's like, Uncle, what happened? We're changing course. Yes, we have to. I lost my lotus flower pie.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it was very pivotal at the end of the day. So, it's like some soul has an incomplete Pie Show set. But, that's what I'm saying about Iroh. Basically, Iroh, the lighthearted reason he sticks around outside the whole being there for Zuko angle is that he sticks around for the accoutrements of the Fire Nation. He likes retired life. He's just kind of a fun-loving retired general. He's hitting on poor June when they're in the neighborhood, he's living life. He's getting these weird
I think June is the only one in the whole series who had like a negative encounter with Iroh.
Until he didn't do anything inappropriate. He was just being
No, he didn't, but he left an impression on her.
He copped the feel once, and I mean, like, just basically he was pretending to be knocked out. It's the worst anyway. So, point being, and then also we have like the weird hot spring side quest. I gotta tell you, of all the Iroh stories, that was the only one that was like, I don't really need this story. The one where he gets left behind. Like, where's Uncle Iroh?
Yeah.
Anyway, so point being, a lot of fun stuff. It's a buddy movie pairing of Zuko and Iroh, which is also a lot of fun. And of course, we put our dramatic pinpoints. Speaking of dramatic pinpoints,
yes, go ahead.
We have Zhao. Let's talk. We're gonna basically our next 2 points. We're gonna talk about Zhao and kind of how he relates to Iroh here, but importantly, the Agni Kai Zuko had with Zhao ended on a big moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is pretty much the first real moment of danger and escalation for Zuko and Iroh, where Iroh's really sticking his neck out for Zuko here.
And again, it's like we're using the old good cop, bad cop thing that Zuko and Iroh have going on here, where again, Zuko's definitely the temperamental hothead, no pun intended. Okay, a little pun intended. And Iroh, of course, has the wisdom, and he has because Zhao is smarter than the average bear, and Iroh knows this because he's a general. This before Zhao gets his promotion. Point being, they're absolutely both generals. He knows how this guy thinks. So he's saying, okay, we got to treat him nicely. We don't want to let him know that we're hunting the Avatar, otherwise it's going to lead to some trouble. He's going to essentially take us off the job, which we don't want. So he's balancing out kind of the angsty turmoil within his nephew's purview here, and honestly, what's interesting? Zhao, to me, when you look at it, is like Zhao is kind of what if Iroh had everything riding on. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Zuko is kind of like what if Iroh had everything riding on Ba Sing Se? That's kind of like the focus
Mhm.
that Zuko's dealing with. That's kind of the fire is fueling him. And Zhao is kind of the negative side of Iroh, especially once we get the Siege of the North, where Zhao is kind of like in some ways he's kind of like an evil version of Liu Ten if you really look at him, because both Liu Ten and he have like kind of the sideburns going on there. I know it's a very small little thread to draw there. What I'm getting at more so is that think about it. It's like if Liu Ten continued on in the path of being a general and just basically was. I know that Liu Ten. If you look at the picture in Tales of Ba Sing Se, there's a little Chinese character written on the
Yeah.
calligraphy written on the thing, and it translates to is a note. It was a letter to his father, and it said, "See you after we win the war, Dad." Essentially, is what it said.
Aw.
Which so again, the
Aw.
idea is like his father. The idea is as Iroh was training Liu Ten was probably going to be a light guy, but again, had the war gone, had they won Ba Sing Se, I mean, who knows? The idea is like again, like Zhao was kind of a perversion of like many of the things Iroh likes, and if Iroh was kind of like a bloodthirstier guy, was a guy without the humility of Iroh, and perhaps like
Well, no, here's the thing with Zhao is, he's literally wanting to control, like control the moon and stuff like that. I mean, he's the opposite of Iroh in a lot of ways, where he just has just a lot of hubris for his power, and just he takes it for granted.
yeah, I mean, it's like Zhao is sort of like the model of the Fire Nation. Of like he's like the kind of the Captain America of the Fire Nation, if you will. It's like this is what we
Oh
want all of our
God.
men to be. We want our men to be kind of like the hotheads, if you will. But again,
Uh,
the hotheads that bleed for their nation, and more so, it's like what if Zhao is everything Ozai wanted his son to be. In that sense, this is the clumsy way I was trying to get at here. Is that in that sense, Zhao is kind of like an evil version of Liu Ten. If Iroh is his brother, like Zhao is the Liu Ten in terms of like Ozai would want the perfect son to be like General Zhao.
sure, sure.
I know he became an admiral. I'm just saying it for the scene here, folks. Don't jump down my throat on that. In case you're like, he was an admiral, you dope. I know he's an admiral. Anyway, so point being, big part of the scene here is so Zuko is going head to head with Zhao, battle of the Z's, if you will. Not a boring battle at all, though. Little Agni Kai action, and basically at the end there, he defeats Zhao, listening to Iroh, kind of keeping his breath control and everything at the ready, like knowing to look out for Zhao to kind of overstep. He always plays into his ego being his downfall. He defeats him fair and square, walks away, and then Zhao in defeat, takes a blast at Zuko. And so wonderfully, Iroh, he always has Zuko's back, and we prove in this perfect moment here. Zuko turns his back, Iroh absorbs the blast, and he stops him, he just throws him off to the side there. In another way, averts a similar tragedy to something that, for all we know, could have happened to Liu Ten. Maybe Liu Ten's
Totally,
back was
totally.
turned, maybe like a Dai Li agent, got him to the, who knows?
Yeah.
He grabs his foot for like the dirty pool. Even my nephew has more honor in exile than you ever will. That's the line he says, and it's like, oh, it's a great line, man. It's awesome.
All right, and that pretty much bleeds over into everything with the Siege of the North as well. Like I said, just like the hubris of trying to literally block out the moon, and just basically the playing God, which obviously Iroh is very much the antithesis of.
Certainly, again, respect for the spirits versus like, no, don't kill a spirit. What are you nuts? We need the moon.
Right, right.
No, but also it's not a self motivation. He's respecting the beauty of the spirits and the nature of it all, but the balance of
uh,
nature. Which again, anyway, so also yeah, remember things really got real for Iroh too. Where again, Zhao almost killed Zuko out of spite.
sure.
Zuko almost got killed by Zhao, and again, this is Iroh again, yet again having Zuko's back, and again, he's really taking this personally. He's playing Iroh being the patient guy, playing the long game. He's doing the Trojan horse move where he's like going along with Zhao on his journey after his nephew has quote unquote died. It's a really sly, strategic general side of Iroh here, where he's like, okay, I'm gonna play dumb here. I'm gonna play the old retired. I'm gonna let Zhao take his little pot shots and insult me about, oh yes, your failure at Ba Sing Se, and like I'm not gonna. I've taken the next steps here. Of course, we learned that Zhao went to the Wang Shitong Spirit Library, burned all the documents like a prick. He's like the guy who like jams the video slut at the Blockbuster. That's Zhao at the end of
Oh
the day.
God.
He jams in the video like no one can get it. Anyway. So, point being, he's but again, Iroh is also sending Zuko into a dangerous situation. I love like I love the moment with Iroh here where he's like really worried for him, like his own son, and he kind of calls it out, saying, I know I coddle you in this moment here, but it's essentially it's like I know I worry, but it's because I think of you as my own blood. You know, I think of you because you're my own blood, and I think of you almost as my own son. Because again, he's just voicing the Zuko right before Zuko goes out to kind of infiltrate the place and steal the Avatar. It's like, yeah, I lost my son. I don't want to lose you this in a similar way in a war setting, man. It's a beautiful little moment. It gives he's so doting on Zuko in that moment. Like, you know, like remember your breathing. Your breathing can stop you from dying and from the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Of course, big awesome Iroh moment, Tiki. So after Zhao, he kills the moon spirit. Very horrific. He killed the koi fish. What does Iroh do?
Dragon, I'm sorry, you're putting me on the spot here. I watched book 1 a while ago.
All right. The
I'm
whole
sorry.
10. I was going to like anything you unleash on that fish, I'll unleash on you tenfold.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That is an awesome line. I just don't remember every Iroh line beat by beat. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. It's the tenfold that I thought we had already wrong.
No, it's a great line. It's a great line. You're right.
Anyway, the point being, I love it. Basically, we see him spring. This is the first time we see Iroh spring into action as the Dragon of the West, like full blown. He unleashes and he terrifies Zhao. Zhao runs away from him. Or saves the day with the UA idea. Point being, Iroh, he's checking off all the boxes for, man, this guy's a pivotal character. We love him. Okay.
All right, and things are about to get even more pivotal in book 2 when they go on the run and the fugitive life. Oh yeah.
So this was a huge status quo change.
Yeah, of course. I love the symbolism of them having to chop off their. I'm sorry, Dragon. I know. Yeah, thanks. I know they're not ponytails, but
well, I mean they're
they're kind of ponytails.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not wrong. The point, there's tone top knots. It doesn't.
Yes. But, I love that is like the end of the first chapter of book 1. That's like a great kind of like, okay, like these characters are going places. This is like a much, much different interpretation of Zuko than we're used to from the first book.
And it makes logical sense too. It's a huge 180 for the season. Whereas when Azula enters the picture, we have this big status quo shift in a really cruel way. Because remember, it's like she's offering false hope. Which, oddly enough, you look at book 2, she makes the same offer at the start of the season, at the end of the season, and both have heartbreaking results.
Oh yeah.
And I love how Iroh sees through it. He's the guy saying, I don't know, my brother's not the forgiving type. This sounds a little too good to be true. But Zuko's like, oh, I can't let the kid's hearts break in here. I got to be there for him. And of course, then they're fugitives.
And Dragon, that's another, you just hit on something right there. It's like, Iroh, he's willing to let Zuko go down his own path and make his own mistakes because he knows that his mistakes will shape him to become a better man in the future. But Iroh also knows that there's a risk there, in that he does fear for the soul of Zuko at the same time.
Yeah, he never says no to him. He never says, "Don't, no, we're not doing this." He never pulls the old seniority play. Never does he do that.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to, again, with the guidance of Iroh here, he's trying to guide Zuko through a really tough thing. Because if you think about the start of the season, Zuko, he loses hope completely when he learns that his sister was ordered from his father. His Avatar mission is off. Like, his chance to come back, off the table. We're trying to bring you in as prisoners. You're now a fugitive on the run. Basically, the ultimate insult to Zuko at the start of the season is, hey, remember how you were hunting the Avatar? Karmically, we're doing that to you now, buddy. You're the new Avatar.
Right. We're
hunting you down. It's your own sister. So again, it's the ultimate insult.
Also, I know we don't have time to get into it, but just Azula is such a great villain.
Tika, we could do a whole nother podcast on
I know, I'm sure we
it's
could.
like the best Greg Lyles performance ever, and I could just geek out on it.
I just rewatched the series finale, and my
Zuzu doesn't look so well.
Oh my god, dude! I fucking love how crazy that bitch gets at the end.
I
oh my
love
god.
her comeuppance at the end, her writhing around.
Anyway,
yes, we're drifting off. So the point is, okay. So the point being, karmically, Zuko is kind of put in this place where he's like the new Avatar being hunted, which again is it's like the worst thing he could do to Zuko after everything he was put through. And again, Iroh has to try to encourage him to find hope within his banishment, which is now more likely a permanent thing. So basically, the
All
two of them
right.
kind of a falling out in this whole thing. We should talk about that, where the two of them kind of split.
Yeah, split for a couple episodes there, which leads to arguably some would say the best episode of the series or one of the best episodes of the series.
It's a good one.
But I love how even though they are split up, Zuko is seemingly on this kind of like solo adventure, but Iroh's never given up on him. Iroh's one step behind him the entire way.
And again, it's like very much like a true to life father in many respects. He was giving him space like a father, but he's always going to be there for him. It's even if like the
Sure.
fathers are like either like distant or maybe like the point they're going to be there when the chips are down, when something important happens, ideally. But because of this kind of really factors into the Boss Sing Save, I want to mention this here. So again, the reason the split happens is the two of them are having trouble. Like Zuko's whole thing going in book 2 is about reconciling that he's not the bad guy. Season 1, he's the bad guy, and Iroh's like trying to say, well, maybe you're not though. You don't think about it. Like, you don't have to be. Anyways, of course, season 2 is all, like I have to be the bad guy. That's my whole thing. But now, well, you're not. That's not your job anymore. So you don't necessarily have to be that. And basically, the two of them are kind of dealing with a similar thing. They don't have the accoutrements and the respect of the Fire Nation, which is sticking in Zuko's craw. Like Iroh's, he's not faring well with the poisonous plants he's putting in his tea. Iroh's having trouble with it too. Much as we love the guy, Iroh takes his chances for his tea.
One of my favorite comedy bits in the whole series is when Iroh, drinks the poison tea and you have the reveal of his swollen face.
Exactly, and it's kind of like a horrifying bit too. Like, remember the tea? I chose wrong. You see, God. So that's the thing. Like Zuko's fighting his inner entitlement. If I'm the prince, that's my whole birthright. And I'm living like a fugitive, like a commoner, versus the very
Have you
humble
seen my
Iroh.
birth certificate? First name Prince, last name Zuko.
Exactly. So that leads, of course, after the split there, and again, as you said, Iroh giving him his space. He meets Toph, which is beautiful, and he extends some friendly wisdom.
Oh my god, dude! I love the friendship that happened with Iroh and Toph. It's so natural and lovely.
My favorite bit is when he offers her the tea. You didn't have to blow on my tea. He says, I did it because I wanted to. I did it because it was a friendly gesture. He didn't do it because like she was blind. He didn't do it because like as a pity thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. So then, of course, one of my all-time like gobsmacking moments watching Avatar is the near death of Iroh. Because I mean, if they wanted to be really gutsy, they could have.
They could have. They very much could have. Yeah.
And we saw what happened to Jet, man. They could have.
Oh god.
So, but then again, it wasn't that clear. No, it was clear. He was dead. Let's be honest. He's dead as a doornail. Anyway, I don't care what that play says. Jet was dead anyway. So, being the near death of Iroh always got me. Like Zuko, I was so in Zuko's mind. So that huge moment happens when Azula she sees and poor Iroh, she recognizes Toph, and then like, oh god, hey, but she's on Team Avatar. What do you know? And Azula just sees that moment. And again, Azula as a character, man, we gotta stay on point. But anyway, so Azula takes that shot at Iroh, and Zuko's like, oh, and they all four, for the first time ever, they all team up for a second. Bam! Try to take out Azula and just oh god, just Zuko. Here's the thing. This is the beautiful thing, kind of the paralleling arc between Zuko living Iroh's life right now, where Zuko has his own Lu-10 moment with the near loss of Iroh, where Iroh almost dies in front of him. And that's his sober move. Okay, I can't separate from Iroh again. I was foolish. That was a stupid mistake. I gotta adhere to. I gotta He undervalued Iroh and his wisdom on the new status quo. I shouldn't do that again, which of course leads to one of the biggest things, one of the most key things Iroh does in the entire series for Zuko, teaches him how to redirect lightning.
Oh yeah. I mean, what more needs to be said about that? It's just, just a really cool. It's the first time in the series, I think, that we introduce like a new element of bending into the four elements. It's like we're kind of combining elements. We're kind of combining fire and water in this one.
It was so beautiful. You know what's so beautiful about the lightning redirecting gesture? Because we established Zuko, he can't bend lightning because of his inner turmoil. Basically, you need to be like to have the heart of a killer, or the heart of like a guy like Nat that's absolutely balanced the piece, and like it's like almost like lock, stock, and barrel sort of bending. Like lightning is a very precise form. It's purified fire, and of course, only Azula and Azula and Ozai can do that. They're the killers of the show, man. Only they can do the lightning bending. Zuko can't because he's a good person deep down. Again, he's kind of warring with himself. Anyway, the point being, Iroh sees Zuko as a character who needs to redirect all the BS that he's been dealt in life, all the crappy cards he's been dealt in life. Like, his family's coming after him. Presumably his father and or his sister's going to gun at him with the lightning, so I should teach him how to protect himself so he can stand up to his abusers and he can protect himself. Again, if he's looking out for him like Liu 10, he's got to teach him that skill, which is really a beautiful gesture at the end of the day. He wants to, like, no more. I don't want him to suffer any more abuse. I want to look out for my nephew. I want to make sure he can take care of himself. So I'm going to teach him how to redirect the lightning. Better skill than shooting lightning.
Yeah. Okay, and then of course that leads us to the refugee life in Ba Sing Se. I mean, come on, Dragon, just the tea shop, just Jesus Christ.
This is all the good stuff, buddy. This is like, so we have Iroh and Zuko. They're looking for.
I don't even know what to say about it. It just kind of speaks for itself how great the tea shop storyline is. It's so natural. It's like such a natural endpoint to this character.
I love that tea as a thing for Iroh. When we get to the refugee angle of the story, it both leads to trouble with Jet, where Iroh just can't stand cold tea. If he just took the cold tea like a man, Jet probably could have survived. But also, it brings prosperity because on one hand, Jet. On the other hand, tea shop, which is Iroh's dream in life. That's the thing. Iroh's actual dream way back when was like he wanted a tea shop before he wanted to conquer Ba Sing Se. Basically, that's the thing. Is in the refugee life, he kind of learns that he was tailor-made to live in Ba Sing Se. He loves the city and appreciates it. He just wanted to live there. He didn't want to conquer it, but he knew the only way of getting there was to conquer it. So yeah, basically they're renouncing the one home for a new home, which is the Earth Kingdom, which I thought was such an interesting thing in retrospect that Iroh's return to Ba Sing Se, he's returning to it without a chip on his shoulder. Because you'd think it'd be really traumatic for him. You'd think he might have some PTSD if he went back to there.
Right, but instead he embraces the people, he embraces the culture, he kind of makes it his own.
He does. And again, it's like this cosmic journey that he's going on in the 3 parts with the visit to Ba Sing Se and kind of the redemption. Again, he's singing Little Soldier Boy. And again, Little Soldier Boy is very much kind of the big moment of, like, again, it's tragedy, but again, it's like not, he doesn't feel anger towards it, so it corrupt the character. He can't feel angry about, like, because again, they were the invading force. He can't be angry at them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dragon, that leads to, do you want to talk about the Tales of Ba Sing Se?
Yeah, sure, yeah, lead off with it, yeah.
Okay, so of course we have the iconic Tale of Iro, which is, you know, just the Little Soldier Boy song, and, you know, Liu Ten's memorial and everything like that. Wonderful stuff. Dragon, I gotta say, Chief Farillas actually just did a video on the Tales of Ba Sing Se, and I agree with him that while the Iroh story is wonderful, I actually think my favorite story in Ba Sing Se is the Zuko story.
I also really like the Zuko story. I mean, look, I'm knocking the beauty of the Iroh story. I think that still is the chief story, but I like the Zuko story, man. It's nice.
I mean, the Zuko story, I think, has so much humanity in it.
Yep.
And I think it all boils down to one moment that I think really is a great beat with Iroh and Zuko that pretty much kind of tells it all.
He'd love
to. Well, no, that's a great moment too. But I'm specifically thinking the very end where Zuko comes home and Iroh asks how his date went. Zuko goes right into his room, and you're thinking like, oh, it didn't go well. And then Zuko opens his door. It was nice. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, there we go. That's the Zuko that Iroh wants to see. You know.
Yeah, so if I can piggyback off of that, T, because you brought up an excellent point. One of the great things about Iroh, we've seen Iroh loves being in Ba Sing Se. Eventually gets a tea shop in the end, the Jasmine Dragon. He's living it up, buddy. He loves this. He loves this life. And importantly, this is kind of like a classic father-son story where, you know, it's the family business where they're kind of starting what could be a family business, but Zuko doesn't want any of this. You know, Zuko, Iroh, it gets to build a really nice life by his passion, which is all he can really ask for in life. But Zuko is now in the position of Iroh. He's willing to stand by Iroh in this life, but he's not happy because it's not his destiny, which is what the whole ending of season 2 is like, Zuko asking what is his destiny.
Right.
Then leads to kind of the crossroads of it all, man. Oh, buddy boy, the crossroads of it all.
I mean, this is probably the big high point of drama of the whole series, I would say. I mean, of course, you have Sozin's comment, which is obviously the climax of the story. But this is like the climax of Zuko's whole arc almost. Like this is like the I don't know, there's just something so haunting about it. It's obviously not irredeemable because he does get redeemed by the end of the show, obviously. But man, in the moment, it sure feels irredeemable.
I mean, it's like the flashback with his mother again. Like his mother always applauded Zuko because he tried, even though he would fail at first. And again, it's kind of a metaphor for his arc in the whole show, where again he stumbles while he's trying to do like the fancy firebending move, but then he gets it on the second time. Well, he tries, and that's the thing. He always tries, that Zuko. So again, it's like he's taking the long. It's like the cowboy way. He's taking the cowboy way. Getting to where he's going to go and where he needs to go. It's not going to be an easy road, but that's Zuko's life. Guy with a burn scar on his face. He ain't going to learn things the easy way, but he's going to do it. He's going to end up in the right place. So I think the most pivotal I remember that when they did the father figures list, I really tried to explain this to you. And again, now you've seen it. Now you absolutely get it now. But it's like then it was I think one of the most genius scenes in all of book 2. Don't get me wrong, the crossroads of I'm talking about the build. This begins the crossroads. Iroh is chewing out the blue spirit, because Zuko we have this great mystery.
Oh, no, I know exactly what you mean now. Yeah, of course. Now that is.
I know. Yeah,
that is easily one of the best Iroh scenes. Of course. Now that I've seen it in context,
that's what I'm saying. Is I adore this scene so much, and Mako's performance in this scene. Where basically,
I think that scene might be Mako's like finest hour.
I know
as far as Iroh is concerned.
That's what I'm saying, because you have this beautiful moment where we have the great misdirect where we think, Team Avatar is going to be reunited with Appa, and then nope, sorry.
Right.
It's the blue spirit, and this could go either way, folks. We don't know what's going to happen here, and the fact that we don't know what's going to happen gets called out by none other than Iroh, where he calls out Zuko like, so I wonder who the blue spirit really is. And, of course, we reveal it's Zuko, and Zuko does not have any idea about what he's going to do next. I'm going to get the Avatar's bison. And then what? We're going to hide him in the tea shop? Should I put on a pot of tea for him? Just choose him out and then basically brings up again. Iroh's been such a path. He's always been supportive of Zuko. He's always been like, he doesn't say no, but he loudly puts it in perspective for him. Says,
yeah.
Destiny is something you have to choose, which of course parallels Iroh's own realization about his destiny after he lost his son, where he asked himself this very question. Like, you have to ask yourself the big questions. Who are you? What do you want? And, of course, this leads to Zuko's nightmare and the metamorphosis. And I love the nightmare and how it pays off into the crossroads where he has the Fire Lord nightmare. You have the blue dragon and the red dragon. Of course, they represent Iroh and Azula. And it's the exact same conversation they have in the crossroads moment at the end of the season. It's genius. So Iroh makes a choice at the end of the season during the big crossroads to help the Avatar, Team Avatar, and that makes sense. Having severed ties from the Fire Nation, they've been trying to kill him. They've been trying to made him a fugitive and everything. Why would he be? Of course, he's going to turn on the Fire Nation. Everyone in their right mind would. And of course, the shame and disappointment that he has at the end of the season when Zuko makes his choice. It's in himself, but in part in Zuko. More at himself, though.
Yeah. It's powerful stuff.
And also, again, it's also this. I love how we mirror that. My favorite moment too, with the whole "I looked away." He can't look at Zuko. He looks away when he's caught in like the crystals underneath there, because when he's like that, you hear that booming score, like boom. It's like, I can't even look at him anymore. It reminds me. It's like Brando's moment in Superman 2, the real Superman 2, not the phony one everybody saw at the cellophane-ness, the real one. The Donner cut, where it's the son has to stumble before he becomes the father. In this case, the father figure. The two of them are on the Zuko on a path of his own destiny for his other father. Though that's the thing. He chooses the biological father before his non-biological father.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I tried to work it in there. It's I'm not as successful it was.
All right.
Well, you see what I'm saying, though, right? He chose the one father.
Totally.
Okay. That's where that's where book 2 ends, and that brings us to book 3.
Yeah, so of course, book 3 has some of the most badass Iroh stuff. Just, oh my god, Dragon, I will never forget my reaction to the first time seeing him, like, incredibly buff and training in prison. I was
This
just
is
like, oh, hell yes, he's gonna kick your ass, Fire Nation! Oh boy! Oh, you guys don't stand a chance!
the old Sun Tzu Art of War plan there. It's like I think there's like an old saying. I think it's like the waste of a. I'm butchering it, but it's like the end of the quote is like waste of a snake. Is if you're gonna do any real damage, you gotta trim down to the waist of a snake.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I mean, just everything with Iroh's imprisonment is awesome, honestly.
Okay, can we
And then of
back
course
up?
I do love the big build up to, the first time that the replacement actor from Mako speaks, and it's the big moment where he's confronting Zuko.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to get to, too, because I
Mhm.
love that the build up on. Of course, we lost Mako at the end of book 2, which of course is why Tales of Ba Sing Se says like for Mako, which is such a beautiful and heart. When you remember when you're watching that for the first time, Tiki, and of course, unfortunately you can't really get that because you already knew Mako was passed. But I'm saying if you watched it way back when, you learned that way, like oh God, Mako's dead. That's
Right, right,
it's heart
yeah.
wrenching. What I'm saying here is, of course, we I hear it was coincidental the way this happened, but I'm not 100% about that. The idea is that if you're going into it as an audience, you're wondering, oh, he's not speaking because maybe they haven't found the guy yet, which obviously they had to if they had the whole
Uh-huh,
season planned
uh-huh.
out. But you know what I mean? It's the fact that like there was a build to when Iroh was going to speak again because we lost like the voice of that character, and it's like, oh man, when is I wonder? And I love that Iroh. We're taking the training wheels off of Zuko's arc with this choice of Zuko's self discovery. He's in the Fire Nation. Zuko has gotten everything he's ever wanted at the start. We did this wonderful inverse in book 3 where Zuko got everything he wanted and Aang got everything stripped away from him. Like he's like failed again. So now he has to redeem his honor while Zuko has his honor. But again, he's questioning what does it mean now that I have my honor.
Sure,
Get very Daredevil season 3 of book 3, if you will. So
sure.
the point being, now he's restored the honor in the eyes of his father, but he's lost the honor in the eyes of his father figure. So it was always this big buildup of like, oh God, Iroh's not giving him any guidance. Period. Iroh is completely silent. He gives him the silent treatment except for one moment. He tells Zuko the only information that he needs, which is his bloodline. He's the one who breaks the news to him that hey, your great grandfather is not only Fire Lord Sozin, it's also Avatar Roku,
Mm-hmm,
which
mm-hmm.
is why you're so conflicted. Your bloodline, you're so conflicted on your mother's side, which is the side you value more. You lost your mother, again. She's not dead, Maya. I want to make that clear. She's not dead. We know this for a fact. Point being, but yeah, it's I love that. See, he provides me like one little nugget of wisdom, but again, not coming down on like one way or the other. Like, no, you made the wrong choice. I'm mad at you, which obviously is not. We learn that later, but it's really interesting. He only gives him like the one nugget of wisdom. Again, very Jor-El kind of pissed off at Superman from Superman 2. It's really good.
Right.
So yeah, and of course, I love how we should talk about Ming, the girl, the female guard who was really nice to him. Showed him the pleasantries in the jail cell because you have this one guy, he's pulling the wool over his eyes. It's the old war tactic. You act all despondent like the crazy old fool, and of course you're training getting ripped all the meantime. And he warns Ming on the day of Black Sun, like, hey Ming, who's Serena Williams by the way, the tennis star. He's like, hey, don't. Hey, you don't look that way. You shouldn't come into work. Like Ming, don't come into work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Beautiful scene again, showing kindness to other people, and again, he scared the crap out of that one guard that was making fun of him the whole time. Yeah. Anyway, so awesome Iroh moments aside, big culmination, big full circle stuff. Finale.
Yes. So of course, going into the final episode, Dragon, like I pretty much figured that Aang was going to find a way to defeat, to defeat the Fire Lord. That wasn't that much of a surprise for me. And then, frankly, some of the weird, like talking the giant turtle thing, like that was, I wasn't sure how to feel about that. But everything, every little last note between Zuko and Iroh in the finale just hit me, just absolutely hit me. So of course we start with the reunion in that tent where I love how Zuko just he knows essentially he knows that he has to make right with Iroh before anything else, and so he just kind of very quietly just sits down, in the middle of the night, waits up all night for Iroh to wake up, and then, oh my God, Dragon, oh, just the moment where Iroh sees that he's there, and at first your heart sinks because you're just like, oh my God, is Iroh not going to forgive Zuko? Oh God, it gives you chills, man. And then of course, he's not talking he's because he's just kind of like filled with emotion. He's just kind of contemplating what to say, and he has no words for how happy he is. And just that big hug, and oh God, just it's beautiful. It's just fucking beautiful.
It's such a beautiful reconciliation of the wise and Zuko, who like now having joined Team Avatar. Essentially, he ended up on the path that Iroh hoped he would find his own way to the whole time. And it's kind of basically Zuko's now realized after he stood up to his own father that Iroh was the real father all along to him, metaphorically. And Iroh is just so prideful in that hug. He's just so prideful that you found your own way. And this is like the universal father story, if you will, like the dream father story in both real life and in fiction, of like the father is so proud that, I know you lost your way, but you found it. You found your way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just and it's so beautiful. And of course, the other big moment with Iroh, of course, the big full circle moment, again, with kind of the three-part Ba Sing Se stories, is full circle revelation on Iroh's side about his own destiny to retake the city. It's kind of this, and kind of redeeming himself, from the Fire Nation. It's kind of it's such a well constructed story. I mean, Mike DiMartino, Brian Kadiska, these guys, they're smart guys. They're really smart guys. Let's give them credit. These guys know what they're doing. All Iroh wants is the run. I just love the beautiful triumphant moment that Greg Baldwin delivers as Iroh here says, "Uncle, what are you going to do? What's your new destiny going to be? If I'm going to be the Fire Lord, what are you going to be?" Says, I'm going to run my tea shop and play Pai Sho every day. That's all he wants to do.
And you know what? That is just the ultimate fuck yeah, Iroh. Iroh is a man of simple dreams and simple motivations and simple pleasures. And Dragon, that to me is straight up motivational. I want to live my life based on those sorts of simple goals.
And here's he also spoke about this in those moments too, when they're talking about basically setting up that Zuko and Katara are going to take down Azula, the whole 9 yards of that stuff, and they're kind of doing a little preamble. I love the humanity and the humility, and Iroh is if you think about it, Iroh could take down the Fire Lord because he's the other most powerful firebender, but he chooses not to because that's not his destiny. He says very wisely, it would just be seen as brother killing brother in a power struggle.
Yeah.
Not the point. It's Aang and Zuko's destiny become the Fire Lord and to take down, take down Ozai, and it's kind of a sins of the father parable where again it's like in the end. You want the air. It's the next generation. We want to end the 100-year war, and you want to save Ba Sing Se, and we want to it's for the next generation to sort things out. We want to do better by the next generation because Avatar Roku, for example, he felt so guilty. Oh God, I should have stopped that 100-year war. I should have stopped Sozin way back when. I had left this whole mess for Aang and his pals and all this mess. Where we're the Iroh saying, okay, look, we got to fix things now. I got to undo the mistake of Ba Sing Se that I started, so we can the next generation won't be screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks to Happy Tea Shop owner. Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Dragon?
Yes, final thoughts for me. Iroh is not only a darling of a character, but he adds so much. It adds so much to the wonderful character complexities that we herald Avatar for. Mako was key in bringing that to life in and possibly his greatest performance and role ever. For me, it's always been his greatest performance. I mean, Aku is kind of up there as well, but I mean, nothing. This beats Aku, no question for me. Aku's great, but I mean, come on, this is Iroh.
Aku's fun, but I mean, Aku
Yeah.
does not nearly have the level of dimension.
That's what I'm
this
saying.
guy
Nothing
has.
beats the dimension
Yeah.
that we go. Well, that's what I'm saying. This has to be Mako's finest performance ever.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but this is like the best. You know, the many other roles, but this is like the king of it. Anyway, so this is we basically in summary, I'm getting all caught up in here. Basically, in summation here, like we raise our tea in honor of Iroh, the father we all wish we had sometimes. Iroh, like the character we love, and we can never say enough nice things about good old Uncle Iroh.
All right, yeah. So, folks, thank you guys so much for joining us on this little retrospective on Avatar: The Last Airbender and everyone's favorite character in it. Folks, if you guys want to hear us talk more Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm honestly all for it. I just don't really know what to like. I want to approach Avatar talk in different ways. So if you guys have any ideas, like if you want to see us do like a top 10 list of episodes, which by the way, Dragon, I totally think we should do at some point, or anything like that, just let us know in the comments, because this is just it's. I mean, I watched through the show. For those of you who might not have watched movie memoirs, I watched through the show for the first time like this month or within the past month. So yeah, everything here is still very fresh for me. It's just definitely one of the best character arcs ever, and the father figure of it all. It's just beautiful stuff. Just beautiful stuff. So happy Father's Day, folks. I hope you and your family were able to make it a good one in these trying and troubling times we're all in. Stay tuned next week. We're going to have some fun times ahead, including a Disney debate and so much more. And until next time, folks, see you later. Have a good night. Sick of tea? That's like being sick of breathing.